Hi everyone, and welcome to day 8 of my 100 Days of Practice series. So, kind of like to summarize the last one, for now I'm settling on Bach Goldberg's Brahms Handel variations, or Handel, however you pronounce it, Scriabin Piano Sonata number 4, and the Schumann Piano Concerto in A minor. So I'm going to try to do about an hour long video and keep these to about 15 minutes per piece. With the Bach today, I've worked through actually the entirety of the first variation. So I thought it would be kind of cool, instead of going variation at a time, comparing like one group of motives or one harmony through all the variations. So I'm going to look at the first measure of every single one and see if I can kind of memorize it and go from there. So probably won't get through all 30, but here we go. Variation 2, Bach Goldberg's. You can follow along with the sheet music that's downloadable on the Google Doc that's in the comments. So here we go. Right hand starts on thumb, and we have this little trill. I do 4, 2, 3 most likely. Let's see. Yeah, I like to change fingers on notes that are repeated. You could do 3, 2, 3, but then the 3 is playing twice, and I think I get a little bit more musical touch and a little more variety of sound when I change. So 1, 4, 2, 3, tied over. Left hand 2, 3, 1, 3. Because I see this pattern that goes on, and it goes on and on throughout the movement. So I think a fingering that would be consistent throughout those is important. It has to be able to then connect to the next one. So the end of that should physically connect into the next one. Just in case you want to play legato. I haven't decided if I do yet. But let's look at harmony. So we have G major, the one chord with a neighbor tone in the left hand. And then the E doesn't really belong here at all. It's a non-harmonic tone. Either that or it's kind of implying E minor, the 6th chord. But if we look back at the aria, that's everything in the G major chord. There's no E there. So what I find interesting about that is I want to explore like what are the wrong notes, the non-harmonic tones in each variation, and how does Bach choose those? I mean, it's so inside of G. The left hand is all G major, right hand except for the A. The A would be basically just a passing tone. So, where does he get this? It definitely is the wrong note that resolves into the next chord. It goes to the 5 chord in D and becomes the 7/6 suspension. And now we're in D. So, I guess you could kind of compare it to the aria because the A doesn't belong to G, but then it does belong to D. It's not quite the same, but I think maybe some of these, could definitely be overanalyzed. This work is often talked about as being like one of the most complex ever, and maybe it's not about the harmony, maybe like the interval, but also sometimes maybe Bach was just like, this is what I want to do, like forget it. I'm not sure. I do see though, he's jumping from the 3rd of the harmony up a 4th, and the melody actually starts on the root, so he's already changing that up instead of being like so it definitely has a different feel. And other than that, not really seeing the connection. But it's, I think what unites all these variations is the harmonic structure and the bass line. So we have G, F sharp, E, D, B, C, D, G. You know, there's this clear line of, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's the first one. Let's see if I have it by memory. Right, that was even longer than I had to go. Let's see. Yeah, that's like the sixth, and then the hands match on E, resolved to the new chord. There we go. That's about all I'm going for now, and that could be staccato. But for now, I'm not really sure. So, variation 3. G major, again. I actually looked at this one a little bit. I do 5, 4, 2, 1, 2, 1. I use that as a pivot down. So there's that. Sorry about all the binging. I can't turn iMessage off while I'm recording. Anyway, at least I don't know how. So we're back in G major. And again, we have this E showing up. And we're starting on the third. So I'm definitely seeing a connection of variation 2 and 3. The third of G major, kind of hinting at this idea of going to the sixth chord, E minor. But not really going there, just sort of getting that flavor in our ears. And then we're at the second chord. So it's also, we have this idea of the tie, a long note, just like at the beginning here. Yeah, except the tie isn't over the change of harmony. Like here in variation 2, the tied note lasts into D major. But in variation 3, the tied note is in the middle of the G major chord. And then we go on from there. And the change happens on the beat. So there's subtle nuances in all these. Left hand's pretty simple, just all up the G major chord. And then he has that one note that changes the flavor. That's about it. So, yeah. And there we go. I'm just doing the first measure of each. Variation 4. Very simple left hand. We've got just the bass line. Nothing happening yet. Right hand. It's a simple 3/8, and so far there's not a lot going on. In fact, this whole variation, just skimming over it, looks definitely simpler than a lot of them. He's just kind of giving a harmonic outline, but making a motive out of it. Something like this. Again, there's this idea, he starts on the third of the harmony. Da, da, the B instead of the, like... Maybe it's just because in the aria, the left hand goes to B on the second note and fills out that harmony. So maybe in the variations, he's trying to hint at this, like as a reference to it. Anyway, for fingering, my edition says thumb and switch to 5. And that's just to do a hand distribution to take the next couple notes out in the left hand. I suppose that's fine. I just think like thumb to 5 is really crowded and like unnecessary. I don't really see the point in that. So it's like, why not just start with 4 or maybe even 3? No, I don't like 3. That's just as bad. Yeah, I would start with, or maybe thumb to get a better sound, because 4 is kind of weak and hard to get the proper full sound. So I'll start with thumb, switch to 4, and then get to 5. I just don't like having to have that crowded thing. So there's plenty of time, even at a brisk tempo. Like I switched to 4 there with 10 seconds to spare. I mean, not literally, but that's the idea. Pretty simple, Yeah. All right, moving on. Okay, so variation 5. Again, we've got this G major. Very skippy, this one. It's always crossing over the right hand's playing this sort of middle figuration, and the left hand's doing sort of a bass line and a counter line on top. So we get 3/4 bass note, top note, and then 2 bass notes. And then it just kind of keeps doing that, it looks like. Changes here. So in terms of the G major, I think this is probably just because I hear it like this all the time, but I think I'm going to slur those 2 ones at the bottom. Also, Bach gives us 8th note, 8th rest for the first 2 notes. But then he gives us quarter note. So I think he's definitely implying like the beat 3 has more weight to it. I think that's sort of a reference even to the aria right here. See, beat 3 has weight by adding a trill on that beat. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Not as much there, but something like this. So I think very slow here. Yeah, I just realized that, but I think that's what's going on, is this idea of putting a stress on beat 3. Reference to aria, beat 3. Now, this is interesting. This I actually know from a lecture I heard on the piece years ago, that because of this bass line, that's just simply 4 notes walking down from the 1 to the 4. Sorry, the 1 to the 5. And Bach uses that as not just a bass line, but as a motive throughout the whole work. That just a pitch collection of 4 notes in a row, usually on the 1 and the 5, or on the 5 and the 2, or something like that, dominates the work. And so the figuration work here is actually that in reverse. And then he just modulates it up a third. Now changes his harmony, now goes down. Down 4, up 4. That sort of thing. So that's all that's going on here. It's literally just the bass line sped up, 5, 6, or 7 times faster, or whatever it is, and played in reverse, and he makes a pattern off of it that then is tailored to the melody. Because it's so stepwise, you get a lot of passing tones in here. So the E and the D, the F sharp don't belong to the chord right here, and the A doesn't belong to the chord. I think it's interesting though that he writes the figuration in a way that you get the A lot right here, A, and then you arrive on it in the next one, which again is this reference to the A here. The A does not belong to G major, but it kind of reminds our ears of that element of the aria. So not just the slur in the left hand, but also the circling around A here is a big part of the variation, I think. At least on first impressions here. So fingering 1, 2, 3, 5. I don't like using 4 if I don't have to, because 4 is a shorter finger. 5 technically is shorter, but 5 has the advantage of the hand kind of dipping into it. 4 kind of can't dip too low without 5 like raising up, and that's really hard to get that sort of control. So I find it a lot more comfortable to like kind of use the hand to go down into 5. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 4, 2. Again, this idea on the top, B, the 2 Bs, I go from 3 to 4. I don't want 3, 2, 1, 3, 2. totally possible. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just me personally. I like switching notes I like switching fingers when they're the same note in close proximity, 2 or 3 notes later. It just gives me more control. It also kind of guides the arm to naturally do the flow here. See, if I go 3, 3, then I get this. Kind of a still arm. But if I go 3, 4, it naturally kind of like moves my elbow out to fit the design of the passage, which will make it easier technically and easier to memorize because I'm kind of involving my body. So, here we go. Root note, third. Here's this idea of the third again, kind of being prominent because it's the highest note above the right hand. And then the third again, it's now the hands are switching, where the right hand is playing what the left hand just played. Technically, you can actually think of that as your reference point. So when you play this finger right here in the left hand, I wish you could see it, but is now replaced by the right hand. And if you kind of use that as your aim, it just tends to organize your technical structure a little bit more. I see this in composers of all sorts. Some idea along those lines. So, and then I would stop here to really feel the weight of the slur. 1, 2, 3, and then play on, and make sure that really resolves harmonically. I think it's important to just not mark beats, but to hear the harmony unravel. Something like that. Anyway, there it is. I can't think of anything else more. So where are we at on time? All right, this is 17. So we'll park it there for today. Let's see if I can remember them all. So first I had already learned. Okay, second is... and then third variation, I think that's the skippy one, starting on the third. I mean, yeah, it was just like 3 notes. Fourth variation. Oh, no. Third is the triplet. There we go. And of course, I'm going into the first note of the D major chord on all of these, so I see how they're connected. The fourth one is the triplet 3/8. There we go with the finger change. And the fifth one is what I just did. Now that I went back to the first 4, I can't remember. I'm not going to look at the music. I'm here until I figure this out. It's the zippy one. Yeah. So there we go. Again, it feels like not much progress because I'm not hearing a lot of the progression unravel, but I kind of want to try it this way. There's only 32 bars, so theoretically it's just 32 different passes and you'll have the piece. It's a little less intimidating to me than like memorizing a whole variation in all of its complexity. Just looking at a very small chunk of it at a time. It makes it more easy to digest. So, we're now at Brahms' Handel. We had gone through variations 1 through 5. I'm going to do something totally different with the Brahms. They're not nearly as complex as the Bach in terms of counterpoint and memorization. It's more of just a technical and musical problem. So I'm actually going to swallow these more in one gulp. And I'm now going to go back and add another layer to the first 5 variations and just kind of try to get that first chunk. I think there's a natural build to variation 4. Kind of we come out of the gate. It's funny, I had the Bach in my head. And then I wanted to go. I was like, that's not working. I got to get in the right headspace. So this Brahms. Okay, so that kind of gets us enthusiastic. We pull back a little bit, but still move with the animato variation 2. And then variation 3 kind of lightens the mood a little bit. Says dolce, but scherzando. I think he's like, keep it moving. Don't lose mood. So. That sort of thing. And then variation 4. I think it would make sense to sort of crescendo into it, and then it arrives. And then that really finishes and sort of takes over, and then, you know, really changes the mood. So perhaps it's more like the first four and then a restart at 5. But I sort of see 5 as a continuation, expressively, this big thing, then sort of staying full melodically, but quiet and reserved into minor and that sort of thing. So anyway, here's a little bit more. I think I had just done the first measure of each in terms of fingering. We haven't looked at much else. So here we go. Variation 1, 5, 3, 4. At this point, I'm not going to explain it every time. I think it's becoming more and more obvious that I change finger on the repeats. So I think it's really important in all these that the 8th note slurs into the 16th note, not just in sound, da da, but literally physically, da da, like connected, not da 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 da. So it should be sort of a loud, soft idea on all of these, but also connected. And that way, the fingering has to allow for that. So 5, 3, 4, 3, 2, we're slurring up. So 3, 5, or 3, 2, 4. That could work. Yeah, I actually like that. 3, 2, 4. And then this time 5, 3, 4. Because we're going up, so every time we want to have a finger, the top finger in reserve. 3, 2, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3. Now left hand. I think just pinky on all those. I mean, you don't really have another choice. Just pinky, thumb 2 every time. By the way, I'm practicing these legato just to get as much smoothness and connection under the hand. That'll help secure it technically, and then it's just learning to kind of let go with the fingertip and bounce the wrist. But I always practice staccato passages legato first. I've got a recording of Brahms' Opus 76 number 2, B minor, on YouTube, and I practiced it like this over and over, just as smooth and seamless as I could with gentle wrist movement, making sure I knew the path of travel for my technique, and then it's just learning to sort of bounce. That sort of thing. And that becomes so much easier. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells when you've really just learned the weight transfer first legato. So hopefully that helps somebody on. There's a million uses for that. So okay, 5, 3, 4. The only difficulty with beat 2 here is going 3, 2, 4 is fine on its own. But inevitably this problem comes because the top voice leads into a chord. 3, 2, and then 2 goes down to A, which is part of the chord. A different voice, but no matter what fingering you use there, though, you're going to run into that problem. So I think just being aware of that technically, that you have to move from the B flat to the A, kind of get more of a flattened out position to a more straightened position to keep the wrist at an even height, would help there. So now I kind of like, I don't want to use 3 pinkies in a row, B flat, F, B flat. I definitely could. It's not really a problem. Why do I not like that, actually? I think that's my gut reaction, and I want to understand why. Part of perfecting your art is really figuring out all those things your body is telling you. I just know I don't like it, but let me see. My guess is that even though I'm moving with the elbow, I feel like the finger is not like resetting to a new position. Maybe I'm just like not activating the fingertip. That definitely helped. Yeah, that's part of it. Okay, so it's a black and white key issue. The black needs to be kind of one position, the white needs to be another, and the black again. And I think I was like relying only on the arm, so the finger was stiffening up. That's probably why I didn't like it. I think I kind of still don't like it though. Okay, so it's not just about going to the left. I need to scoop down so that I have the depth into the white key, the F. So, okay, here we go. There it is. Yeah. So that's not really a problem. I mean, the only alternative would be to just go to another finger, like 3 or something. I don't know that that's better. Yeah. It's an option. I don't think the advantage is really that good, though. All right. One more measure on that. So, because it's so similar. It starts off the same way, beat 1, except you're slurring up this time. Let's see. This time I wouldn't go 5, 3, 4 because the 3 on D to 1, 2, 4 on the 7th is like incredibly hard to stretch. The 3 and the D and the E flat are way too close with these fingers and way too far to the other ones. So it's a rare case where on the repeated E flats I would just keep 5. Which I don't like because then you can't slur into the F. I guess, let's see. Okay, there is time to actually transfer 5 to 4 so that I can get from E flat to F smoothly. So 5, 4, 5, transfer 4, 5. Yeah. That's not going to be easy, but it will be possible. Just I'm putting parentheses around it to suggest like just slightly more attention to that moment. I don't think everything should be practiced evenly. What I mean is like the same amount. I think you need to find the little trouble spots even within a measure or within a variation or within a whole work and say, this is going to need 2 to 3 or 10 times more work than everything else, and not just sort of go through the motions and play through it a bunch. Really problem solve when you practice according to the needs of the piece, and you'll save yourself hours and get better a lot faster. It's just a lot more rewarding. So 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, switch, 5, 4, 5. Yeah, it won't be a problem with it. You know, it's much faster than that, but with some extra practice, it should be fine. And you know what? You have to anyway. Because the next one is F to B flat, and that's too big to do with 4 anyway. So you have to learn to finger substitute. The next one has to substitute to 3 in order to be legato connected to the top. What's interesting too is it's a dotted 8th note this time. So it's not going... It's actually... The beat happens first. So you have extra time to do that one. Swing up, and it's naturally 5, 1, 4, 2. Or actually, maybe 3. Ooh, this is kind of brutal, actually. Maybe 3, because then it makes it easier to get to 5 in the next measure. But it makes it harder to get to 3. Yeah, I'm not decided on that. I'm going to write both options. In this case, definitely not 2 pinkies, because the hand is only moving up a half step and going right back down. In fact, I'm going to go 5, 3, 4. I want a different note on the second D, not just because of the repeated note, but actually because of where it's going. It's a B flat major first inversion, and for me, I have huge hands, like ridiculous. I can stretch a 12th. So to go 5, 3, 1 on a B flat major first inversion actually feels so incredibly cramped. Like, this is literally what this looks like when I play that chord. That doesn't look comfortable, probably, to any viewer. So I actually find it much easier to do 4, 2, 1 on that chord. It opens up my hand a little bit more. So 5, 3, 4 definitely gets me more comfort. So here we go. Now the left hand. This is a really curious case. A lot of people are so conditioned to listen and know the beat that they don't really think about where they're heading. In other words, this pattern is 8th and 2/16 notes. That pattern alone, the best fingering is 5, 1, 2. But people run into technical problems of sounding vertical and heavy and tensing up in between beats because they're not looking at how that pattern connects to the beginning of the next one. So beat 2 is C, C, F. Same rhythm. Now the issue with playing 5, 1, 2 on the first beat is that now you've crowded your hand really, really too close to get down to the C. And it's too wide to get from the F where you just played to the big wide spread of the C on the thumb. So by using a fingering that on its own works, you actually corrupt the technique of the second beat. So instead, it's better to go 5, 1, 3, because 3 sets up the thumb to be able to move farther into the C that it's going to. So on its own, 2 would be a better choice, but considering the context and the momentum technically, I think it's much better. And then you can just kind of work on springing. It's all staccato anyway, so you can spring the hand in to kind of prepare the next position. And by that logic, I would also do 4 going down on beat 2 to prepare beat 3 better. So, an unusual case where if they were just blocked quarter notes, 5, 2, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 2, 1. But because of the way they're written with a flow, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 2. There we go. All right, let's try this now. Yeah, I got it. It's a little hairy, a little sketchy. Doesn't feel great. I have to work on it, but there we go. And we're about the half-hour mark. So I'm going to pick up with variation 2, the second and third measure, and kind of keep this pattern going tomorrow. But we're going to transition over into Scriabin land for now. Back at the fourth sonata. And I was kind of doing what I just did with the Bach, where I was taking one element of the melody in the last video in this series, and I was comparing that with its context all 4 times it happens. So we looked at how the melody is D sharp, how that's around B major 7, second time quartal chord, third time F sharp major, major 7. Wrong note. And then fourth time, again, the same harmony, just a different figuration. So we're going to just take this a step farther and do the next group of notes. So still, that note is tied, and the chord, the first use, measure 1 and 2, now resolves to essentially just, that's not really the harmony, is it? No, the A natural doesn't belong. It's a... That whole measure unravels to a 7 half diminished 4/3 in the key of F sharp. So E sharp half diminished. So we have, and it has this very open. That's like the Wagner Tristan. But Scriabin's version. I always think of the half diminished chord as a very magical sounding chord. I actually, fun fact about me, I grew up playing the Zelda series, and there's this music that anybody that's played the games that is the Fairy Fountain, and it's all based on that half diminished chord. So it opens. So maybe it's just a mental thing that like I learned to associate that sound of that harmony from an early child, like probably age 7 or 8. I heard that harmony without knowing any music. I didn't know theory back then, but retroactively I learned it. And maybe that just told me that this is fantasy, this is magic, this is, you know, it's a fairy theme. It's like one of the most special moments in the Zelda games. So I don't know whether it's that or if the chord is actually kind of evokes that for everyone else. But it seems that Scriabin uses it a lot. And it is, in fact, Scriabin's music is often described as mystical. So for what it's worth, I love that we're only the second harmony into the piece and he's already arrived here. It sets the tone to be like, okay, we're going into some weird territory. I mean, imagine Mozart using like a, I don't know, how would this work? There it is, you know, a half diminished. It would be like, what are we doing, right? You know, so second time now, it looks like he goes the same direction with it. Yeah, still half diminished, doesn't change a thing. I suppose I should look at how that resolves. So half diminished becomes, clearly the D sharp is a suspension, it's held over. So just A sharp minor 7, which is, we get the C in a second. So that's the 3 chord. Just, there we go. Minor 3 with a 7 on it. That's in root position. It actually doesn't get more simple. So we start out with the 4 chord. It becomes half diminished. No, wait, is he doing... he's kind of doing a circle of fifths. You know, not really, but he's kind of definitely hinting at that. So anyway. And then the melody drops down a fourth to the wrong note and resolves into the chord. And we have some counterpoint in the left hand. Okay, second time looks like the same. Yeah, same thing. Third time. Oh boy, here we go. The bass doesn't change. And theoretically, the harmony doesn't either. The right hand accompaniment, though. Ah, wait a minute. Dun, dun, dun. 4 on 3 there. If I just play the right hand, you can't really hear it that high, but if I just stop there, it's actually an F dominant 7th. If I respell everything, F, A, C, E flat. But I don't think that's really how it's functioning. Because it immediately, the A natural resolves down into G sharp, which is where the melody ends. In which case, It's just a diminished chord. So he's just doing the same thing. It's just a half diminished. And then we're looking at, I mean, it's hard to hear harmony with the F sharp pedal point always there. But wait a minute. Is that a, that is an 11th. No, am I reading that right? Okay, bass clef for the bottom part. Treble clef for the top part. Yeah, that's an 11th. I can stretch it, but how does anyone else play this? I really don't understand, actually. Scriabin must have had a huge hand. Oh, man, that moment, though. Just listen to the voicing of that harmony. Then he kind of clears it up into what looks and sounds like C sharp major. But because of the A sharp, oh man, I could hear that harmony all day. Really, it's just the same thing. It's the A sharp minor 7th. It's just disguised because you now have the F sharp carrying it. So it really sounds a lot more like an F sharp 9. I don't even know how you'd analyze this because, I mean, it's sort of classical jazz and freestyle all in one. I mean, it's not actually jazz, but I mean, in terms of harmony, I think a jazzer would just call that an F sharp 9. I don't know if that's really acceptable in this case, but anyway, so that, yeah, that's the harmony. There we have it. I'm gonna just call it a 1-9. Or you know what makes more sense? All these are pedal points, so there is a harmonic progression. I'm gonna identify it like it was at the beginning. It's quartal over F sharp, so over 1. And then it's 7 half diminished, just like it was at the beginning, over 1 pedal point. And then it's the 3 minor 7 over 1. So really the progression hasn't changed. The only thing that is changing it is we're hearing this drone. But harmonically it's no different than... That's really cool. Just by hearing that new bass note, it totally changes the mood and the atmosphere of the opening. But really, he's changed nothing else. So, here we go. Wow, this is hard to play. Is that right? Yep. And then he kind of muddies it with that A natural. But we haven't made it that far yet on the harmonic palette. So that's pretty much it. I still can't get over that big 11th stretch. I'll have to listen to some recordings. I bet you most people roll that. Yeah. I can't wait to learn the rest of this. All right, so let's see. My theory is that the 4th time is the same. Yep, still half diminished. Still the same harmony. It plays out exactly the same way. So the right hand figuration adds that. Oh yeah, the 8th natural was there. Okay. This is still the same. Yep. Here's my favorite chord ever. Oh man. Yeah, it's more disguised. I would really try to voice that A sharp, because it's only that one note within the texture that determines the difference of that harmony. Right here. Right in the middle of the piano, too. Oh, it makes all the difference in the world. I swear I've never heard that note. I mean, it goes a lot faster, so it is objectively kind of hard to hear in time. But now that I've studied it, I'm going to listen out for that. I'm just going to circle that note. To me, that's what makes the whole passage, is hearing that harmonic reference to the opening that was in the bass line right here. I don't know if that was the right one yet. I haven't studied it. Okay, so anyway. Yeah, man, that's just gorgeous. Okay, this is a fingering nightmare. Let's look at this for a second. 5-3-5-1. That's one hand position. Then you got to bring the pinky down for sure. 5-2-5-1. Then you're just in the same 5-2-5. You got to switch back to 1 on A sharp because you're going back up to a high note. So 5-3-5-1, 5-2-5-1, 5-2-5-1, 5-3-5-1. Going back down, put 5 on E sharp. 5-2-5-1, 5-2-5-1, 5. Wait a minute. Oh, this is confusing. Okay, we're in 6-8. Right? Okay, in 6-8, but we're playing triplets to the beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think what's hard about this is like it's written in 6 in the left hand, definitely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm playing that in 2 hands, by the way. I'm not that good at just getting it right away. Which I do a lot of. I will often practice a complicated part in 2 hands just so I can get my ear in tune with how I know it needs to go much earlier than I'm technically able to do that in the process. You know, it might be 3 or 4 practice sessions before that's comfortable to run at tempo with a lot of tonal control and careful study without making mistakes. But on day 1, there's no reason why I can't just... and get a feel for how I want to shape it, the momentum and all that. So sidetrack there, but I hope that these can all be good for you in your own pieces. I don't expect that people listening are playing Scriabin 4 at this moment in time. And if you are, then you get extra help. But I think the idea is if you're watching this, you can hopefully apply whatever I'm talking about to your own piece. And that goes for everything I do in these. So anyway, here we go. Yeah, I think what's weird is the left hand's so clearly in the 6, but the right hand's like, if I just think about where the top notes are, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It's groups of 4. 1, 2. Still throwing me off. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, so in a way, it's like a polyrhythm. It's like groups of 4/8 notes happening on groups of 6/8 notes. So here's how I'm going to get this in my ear. I'm going to play only the top A sharp when it arrives in accordance with the left hand. So 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There, I think I've just figured it out. Then I want to compare when that's happening with how it relates to the left hand. So we've got A sharp together on the downbeat. Now, I'm going to think of it this way. The left hand melody is like a pickup to the right hand restarting. Now, when the melody continues, it happens with the change to A natural. And then all that turnaround, the two melody notes and the two bass notes, happen within the A natural. There's that group of four. And then I begin again. G sharp, the new top note, happens in accordance with the bass note again. And then we're back in the pattern. It's going to continue like that. Because anytime you reset on the downbeat together, you know the polyrhythm has worked itself out to the point where it's going to repeat from there. So we get pick up, together, and then restart. I missed it. A little slower. Yeah, that's basically what's going on. Now I'm gonna block it as if it's a whole chord. So is that right? Yeah, that's right. I'm not used to going to the double note on that note in the left hand. That's why I'm being thrown off. So this time I'm gonna be intentional about that. Oh right, because I said it's like sort of like an F dominant seventh. So even though that's not what's happening, I need to think that so I can see the shape. So we get there it is. Yeah, that's weird. It's like I can almost hear it. Okay, I think I've got it. So if we further break the left hand down into, instead of 6/8, if we think of it as 2 dotted quarters, like 1, like basically 2/4 with triplets. 1 2 2 1 2, and then we further make that 4/4 with triplets. 1 2 3 4 1. Then within those 4 quarter notes, we get a slow triplet. One. So it's a polyrhythm. It's literally like if you break down the structure to its fundamental texture, what's really happening here is a very slow 3 on top of in the right hand, on top of the left hand 4. 1 2 3 4 1, on top of 1 2 3 1. So there we go. Now I'm not going to be able to get this, but let's see if I can kind of internalize that. Oh dear. That's going to need some work. But I definitely feel like much more confident about what's happening here. I'm also noticing on measure 44, the left hand does G sharp melody at the same time that the right hand is playing G sharp in the figuration right there. It's the same note. So I would not play it in the right hand. I'd play it in the left hand because that's the melody and you want that to soar out. So starting at the downbeat of that measure, just simply don't play that note in the right hand and then begin again with 3-1. There's probably going to be more of those. Doesn't look like it yet. Maybe. Measure 46, the last 8th note, appears to be the same F sharp. But we'll get there when we get there. So there we go. I definitely have a better feel for it. I'm just kind of read through the first line just for fun. So, oh, look at who's the visitor. Oh, he's gone. You can kind of see him. Bucky. Okay, so we've got... Yeah, gives me an idea. I'm excited. I love this piece with a passion. So here we go. Little few minutes behind here, but let's look at the last passage of the day, which is gonna be out of the Schumann Concerto. What do I want to do here? I've gotten a start on this. I was going to learn it last minute for a competition that ended up being postponed next year because of COVID. So that's too bad. But I love the piece. So I'm still gonna learn it even if there's no performance guaranteed out of it. Let's go to the first movement. I want to kind of start with passages that intimidate me the most. And for some reason, right at the beginning, again, I'll link the score to this. So measure 48. There's this thing in D minor that just, it doesn't seem like it would be hard, but I remember looking at it as a kid, just kind of sight reading through this for fun here and there. And I don't know why. It's this passage that always scared me. So... it just seems like the fingerings and everything are kind of hard, and learning all the chord shapes, getting the slurs and the staccatos back and forth, and wide positions to short positions. I don't know. I don't know that it's really that hard if I just took the time to learn it. The other day I had just began to do this, and I found a fingering solution that works for the first time. But this piece is very much in sonata form, the first and the last movement, actually, with a large coda, or cadenza in the case of the first movement. And because of that, everything happens twice, but the second time it's in a new key. And I have not had a chance to work it out. The second time it happens, which I'm looking for, it's going to be right after the recapitulation. So measure, here it is. It's right after the octaves. Measure 303. Now everything happens in A minor again. And I'm just going to kind of compare and contrast it with the first time. We'll go one hand at a time and see if this works. So in D minor, I go, and every time, I'm not talking about the chord I'm about to play. The whole passage begins in D minor the first time, and the whole passage begins in A minor the second time. So that's how I'm going to refer between the two. And I'll keep a holder, and the first time is before the turn. So here we go. D minor, I do, first three are 5-4-1, 5-4-2, 5-4-1. And then I resolve that to 5-4-2 for the first eighth note. So now A minor, 5-4-1, 5-4-2, 5-4-1, 5-4-2. I think that should still work. You don't have the black key in this case, but the fingering should still work. What's important to me is like the quarter notes really slur off, with a right here. My computer's letting me know that I might be almost out of storage, so it might just cut me off, in which case we'll pick up tomorrow when I clear some disk space. But or whenever I have time to record the next one. In any case, I think the right hand is slurred, da-dum, in 2/8 notes. But I think the left hand should sound that way too. Da-dum. Like the quarter note slurs off to the eighth. So that's again why I'm changing fingers from 1 to 2, to get that slur as much as I can. So loud, soft, not just that strong, weak idea, but sort of actually connected as much as possible. It's the same note, so you can't play truly legato without pedal. But that was without pedal. And then with pedal, you can juice it up. So I'm exaggerating the space between them, but I think this passage has to dance and have that slur throughout. All right, so second group, 1, 2, 1. Again, it's like sort of each quarter slurs off to the first eighth, and then the second eighth is a pickup to the quarter, which then slurs off to the next eighth again. So the grouping is a little bit backwards. It's not what it looks like. Slur off, now pick up. 1, 2, 1. 2, 1. I think that, yeah, that's definitely still works. Back to D minor. 1, 1, 2, 1. In this case, there's a eighth note written within the quarter note. So 1, 1, 2. So let's see. All right, I deleted a few things, so I'm actually able to kind of just wrap this up real quick. Back to D minor the first time. We're on the third group. A lot of thumbs in a row here. Thumb, thumb, 2, thumb. Then we have the root position D minor. 2, 1, 2, 1. This is the first time on this augmented chord where I use the third finger. So let's see if that holds up the second time. We have thumb, thumb, 2, thumb, 2, thumb, 2. Yeah, 5, 3, 1. What I've found so far, I've barely learned 20% of the notes of this concerto, but it seems like almost anything that repeated fits the design of the first one almost exactly. It works out well. Beethoven's never like that. If he plays something that was in B flat, like later in E flat or something, most of the time you have to change your fingering for it just because it's so complicated with the counterpoint. And it just doesn't feel good. You know, just the simple difference of blacks going to whites or whites going to blacks will change it enough that it feels very difficult. This Schumann Concerto is not the case so far. So, augmented chord 5, 3, 1. Back to D minor time. So, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Oh, it looks like it happens almost the exact same way. Yeah, until you get this minor. 2, 1, 2, 1, and then it goes to augmented. It does go the same way. I didn't even notice that. Okay, so 2. Oh, it's shortened. This is way shortened from the first time. He just does like these 2 measures, and then he already goes to this single note counterpoint. Whatever this is. Is this right? Yeah, like the first time it's way longer, I feel like. Oh no, the first time basically the only difference is that it's 4 measures instead of 2. So I'm gonna slop through this. This is the second time of 2 measures. And then he goes to this sort of imitative thing. Whereas the second time it looks like he just does it once. I can't play it, but you know, that's easy. Because again, I was always scared of this part, so I'm glad that the second one's shorter. In which case, after 5, 3, 1, I would go 1 again. And then 5, 4, 2. So I can really scoop that slur going up. I think that's what I did the first time. That is what I did. And then 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2 is what I did. So let's try that. 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3. So each group of 2 notes I finish with 3. It's just starting it with either thumb or 2 to add variety, so the hand isn't doing the same thing every time. So 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah, this is beautiful. It works out exactly right. 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2. Which, by the way, what I'm doing, I call compare and contrast practice. I got this technique from Mark Westcott, who, one of my primary teachers, who talked about the idea of not learning a piece in order, but learning it based on the repeated material. So if you're aware that a certain passage happens later, don't learn everything in between it yet. Just compare the two, and then in chunks go to the next time. Which is kind of even the idea on a micro level of what I was doing with the Bach today and the Scriabin is never just learn a piece in order. I'm taking the one harmony of the Bach, just the first chord, and figuring out what he does with all the variations. And in the Scriabin, learning like just one harmony at a time, how he unravels that through different textures. The brain is able to process the information a lot better and draw those connections, and you can memorize it and you can perform it with more knowledge and understanding rather than just sort of thinking of it as tons of different notes. I think it's important to really look for these patterns, even from day one of practice. So, okay, let's finish this out. There's like 4 more measures. So we've got these octaves that I do 5, 4, 5. Oh yeah, and then I do a hand cheat thing. It's octaves to it's hard to jump this with the left hand. So I actually go octave, single note, and then I take the other one with a thumb. Bottom, and then neither one has to move. And then I do left hand octave with right hand single note after that. And that makes the it makes the transition much easier. So I hope that will work this time also. Yep, it works. Good. So the top note out with the right hand, bottom note out with the left hand. 4, scoop to 2. And you can see on the score how this looks. Because you could follow along, but you can't see my markings. So hopefully this is a bit more clear. With the 5, 4, 5, see I take that note out here, even though the right hand's resting. And then I take that note out here because it's played in the left hand anyway. So definitely makes it a little bit more pianistic. And then it's just octaves. I mean, anybody can do that when you practice enough. Not hard to figure out fingering there. When the notes in the middle get added, it's kind of like the Brahms example. It's not just about what the chord feels like, it's about where it's taking you. So all of those would have an ideal shape that may not be the best in terms of traveling to the next position. And I found that to be the case in the first rendering of this. So I did 5, 4, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 2, 1. Let's see if that translates. And we have 4, 3, 3. Oh, interesting. He goes to a single octave. He changes nothing else except that. If you're following along, you'll see. The first time he did, and he kept what would be the A in the middle. This time it's missing. It's probably just a typo. I'm just going to add it back in. There's no way a note like that would be different or even noticed. So 5, 4, 5, 3, 5, 3 to 5, 2. and then it springs up, back to the first time, 5-3, 5-4, back to 5-3. Again, just sort of changing it to aid the arm being involved and not staying still. Because where you're still, you'll get stiff and hard and your technique will suffer. Interesting. He thins it out to an octave again. Maybe this was intentional. Maybe he just wants the second time to be a little bit less heavy-handed. So he's just thinning out the texture slightly. Then I'm guessing it was just 5-3 again. I'm assuming from my first time. Where's this? Yeah, to 5-2. And then 4-5. So, except there's, again, he's thinning out the texture, so that it's pretty straightforward. 4-5 on the bottom note. Okay, one more measure, almost there. Feels like it's been a marathon tonight. Okay, 4-5. So the first time I go in F major, 4-5, 5-3-2 for the diminished. Then melody takes over with thumb 2. So that it can connect perfectly smooth up to the grace note. Let's see if that works here. No, he writes it differently. Of course he does. So we're at free reign then to do whatever feels best. I would do 3-1, 4-1, octave, and then just 5-2, connecting legato again. 2-1, 2-5-1, and then we're there. I'm tired and burnt out and want to be done. I didn't do the right hand, but we can just kind of do that in the next session for tomorrow. So it's going to be these 4 pieces for a while. If that interests you, keep watching. And if not, hopefully you can, again, apply it to your own pieces anyway. So I'd love to hear your feedback of what you learned from this. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please consider supporting me on Patreon. If you're interested in piano lessons, links to my contact information, as well as this Patreon account, are provided in the description below. I look forward to putting out more content in the near future.